Hey YouTube, Prometheus13 here. Just came to talk about a little One Piece today. I got a very short video, but still a very interesting topic. I don't think I've ever actually heard a video specifically on this topic with this character. We're going to be talking about Momonosuke Kazuki. Okay, Kazuki Momonosuke. Kazuki Odin's son. I think the main obvious thing that's always talked about when it comes to Momo is his role going forward in the story, and a lot of the narrative is Momo for Nakama, which I don't necessarily hate any of the narratives for any straw hat candidate other than Caesar Clown. I heard Caesar Clown earlier when I was watching a video, and I as much as I normally don't care about that kind of thing, it's just like, nah, fuck that nigga. Fuck that dude. He needs to die. He needs to die very, very soon. Very soon. He did not die when I wanted him to die. He didn't die again, and I kind of understood him for the narrative. But once Kaido's dead, there will be no point in keeping Caesar Clown alive. None whatsoever. Now, with that being said, the thing I want to talk about with Momonosuke is, first off, I want to say, though we all can tell that Momo is no Kozuki Odin, okay? It is physically impossible. It is improbable for one person who is a whole new entity to be the exact same person that spawned them. Now, with that being said, there still holds a lot of weight, and he is his father's son, and that I'm gonna amend it to say the apple doesn't roll far from the tree. Okay? The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and it doesn't roll far from the tree. Alright? Now, with that being said, you have to understand something. No, Momo is not Odin in any of the senses or any of the feats or any of the things that Odin did. However, do understand one very key and simple thing, and I think that once I actually say this, you'll get a better understanding of where I'm coming from. Pretty much, I'm just coming with the point that Momo himself goes through a specific narrative in the story where you can tell that he actually parallels and mirrors his father very similarly. Honestly, I think he's catching a rep, man. Momo is a coward and a crybaby. We can all agree on this. However, I think that there's a large point in growth that is going to show in the main topic of this video, the Ryu no Mi. Dragon for all those who, prefer the English translation for no reason. Just like for no reason, I prefer the Japanese translation. Now, with that being said, the Ryu no Mi that we are talking about is an artificial devil fruit. Now, it is important to never forget that officially, as far as Vegapunk says, this is a failed devil fruit. Now, we don't know why it's a failed devil fruit, okay? Now, that's open for speculation. Me, myself, personally, I am of a more interesting, probably just the conspiracy side of me, is of the thought that when Momo's devil fruit is fleshed out, you're going to find out that the failure with it was the fact that it has very little weakness, that the normal things that would hinder a devil fruit user isn't going to be a thing that would hinder Momo once he fully embraces the dragon fruit that he has. The Ryu no Mi, as we've already seen from its ancient zone type models, is a beast destructive fruit, okay? Beast destructive fruit. Now, with that being said, before we get further into the Ryu no Mi, the main parallel I was speaking of between Kozuki Odin and Kozuki Momonosuke is the misrepresentation of their character. In the story of the Odin flashback, we get to understand that all of these boisterous, ridiculous feats that Odin himself was accredited with by the time that he was Momo's age were usually scenarios where other people were gossiping on his name, not even getting the story straight. And Odin did not give two fucks if somebody did or did not get a story right about him. So he just, that's how he got his reputation, all of the crazy things that he did. Now, we know that, from a young age, this dude, he boasted some crazy strength and some crazy credibility. Now, obviously, with what we're saying, Momo being almost the polar opposite as far as we're seeing in the story, I am still of the theory the apple cannot roll too far from the tree. Not at all. I think that even in a more psychological outlook on it, you could understand that even the black sheep of a family still holds the characteristics of said parentage, of their ancestry, okay? But those characteristics might be the ones that, their parents necessarily don't embrace. We'll put it like that. All right, but we're getting into a completely different topic of video right now. We're sticking strictly One Piece. We're not going into Taoist thought or theory. Okay, we're not going into any of that. We're going to any kind of theory like that. So with that being said, I think that's what's happening with Momonosuke. We're seeing the narrative, and we're actually the ones who have the benefit. I think Oda's going to beautifully do something. We're the ones that have the benefit of being the people who are messing up Momo's story. By that, let me explain what I mean. I think that we are supposed to be the audience that was retelling Odin's story. All of those people who got all of Odin's, all of those feeds, all of those credits that weren't 100% on the narrative completely. They were just making their own narrative. We are doing that for Momonosuke ourselves. And when it comes down to it, we're going to see that this boy definitely is his father's son. And I mean, we're being shown that consistently. Momo's character consistently is showing us that he is his father's son. Now, he's also like his mom, and since we didn't get to know Kazuki Toki too long, we don't know what characteristics he takes from her. But what we do know is that both were strong-willed people, and a strong will is the key to Conqueror's Haki. It really is. It really is. Now, with that being said, getting back into the Ryu no Mi and its artificial nature, how we said that Vegapunk already has moved on because he considered that project a scrap. He moved on to bigger and better things with the devil fruit, as into feeding devil fruits to inanimate objects, and the pacifistas, and whatever this newest weapon are. I can't remember the acronym right now. It's what is it? The P. He said what the SPX or something like that. I don't know. Whatever. That's a point that we've gotten so mind blown by all the things going on in Wano. Some of us had forgotten about the SSG. That's the acronym. The SSG. All right, the SSG is out there, and we will be getting that fleshed out here pretty soon. Now, with the Ryu no Mi, I think we need to discuss the different kinds of abilities that a dragon devil fruit may grant its user, okay? Now, with that being said, here's where we get into very interesting conversation, because if there is truthfully a Ryu no Mi out there, which if there's an ancient zone type model of the Ryu no Mi, then we have to expect to eventually come across the person who's eaten the Ryu no Mi in the real One Piece story. Okay, now with that being said, the grand scheme of the realm of their powers is a little ridiculous. This fruit is always going to be OP. I've always said, if I found myself spirited away, and yes, I'm a person who believes that you can be spirited away. I feel like that you're very, very short coming in your argument if you don't think that that's possible. And I found myself in the One Piece world. That is the devil fruit I would seek out. That is one of the devil fruits I would seek out, because obviously if it's already eaten by somebody else, I don't necessarily feel I'm trying to kill somebody just to get their devil fruit power. So obviously I train my Haki up. But with that being said, we have a plethora of abilities that a dragon devil fruit will give to you, all right? And I thought of this pretty nicely. Now, realize that I'm a bit of a dweeb, a little bit of a comic book nerd, all right? So I will be going not just from, the typical scheme of all of the dragon mythology. Like, I'm going to be going with hard reference, man. The only thing I might miss are some video game dragon powers, all right? Now, with that being said, the top powers that you have to understand about a dragon devil fruit is, as standing, Kaido's number one feature, invulnerability. The dragon scales are said to be so tough that not even the strongest of steels and irons could penetrate their hide. Now, with that being said, the endurability also comes with a certain resistance to different elements. Okay, now those resistance, I don't know if anybody's familiar with the slime story, but I love that shit. I will tell you, I've read the light novel completely to the end. Understand that I have read and love that, and am rereading currently slime, and they do some nice stuff with dragons. If you haven't read how that time I got reincarnated as a demon slime, or if you haven't watched it, or if you haven't decided that you want to read the light novel, you should give it a try. It's actually a pretty well thought out, very nicely written story. Now, with that being said, the invulnerability also comes with super strength. Super strength is a necessity. I mean, it comes with one of the abilities that will be further on the list down here. Okay, super strength, the kind of super strength that we're talking about, it varies in degree, not just for each individual dragon, but also that dragon user themselves in the moment. Different variations and variables will cause for greater increases or decreases of strength. With that being said, the other most common thing, which Luffy's been waiting to see, is Momo's ability to fly. All dragons, no matter what mythology they come from, have an innate ability to fly. Even if they don't have wings, most of them still have the ability to either walk on clouds or skywalk, and generally it's a great ability. It really is. But Momo will be flying here pretty soon. We also have weather manipulation. Alright? Weather manipulation is the most common one I think people think Momonosuke is going to have. His ability to create clouds. Now, we don't know the kind of clouds, but his ability to create clouds is key in a weather manipulation ability. Now, with the ability to control clouds, we could also understand he might be able to change barometric pressure, and understanding the devastating power that one would have with a pressure ability. We need to also understand the second devil fruit I would seek out, that I've never once seen in the story. The pressure fruit. I'm not sure how that would translate to Japanese because I don't know the Japanese word for pressure. But if you understand the ability to control pressure or to control the flow of pressure, it is one of the most ridiculous powers that you could possibly think of. And shout out to my boy DJ Darren Jacobs, my boy out in Las Vegas. Me and him constantly we're bullshitting about One Piece, and what constantly comes up with, I'm sure most One Piece fans, are what devil fruit would you get if you were in the One Piece series. And he pointed out his personal theory that the fruit that Monkey D. Dragon most likely has is a pressure fruit, the ability to control pressure, atmospheric pressure, any kind of pressure, any kind of pressure, or the ability to control flow. I like both ideas. I think both are phenomenal abilities. When you actually think about them grand scheme with a good mind, both of those abilities make a very OP person. Now, with that being said, moving on from weather manipulation, we get into the ability that factors into super strength, size manipulation. It is a very common ability for dragons to not just also, we'll say, shape shift, but also affect the physical size that they're able to produce. Okay, so essentially think of something the size of, like, the Empire State Building. Looking around and realizing that it's talking to all of these small things can change its size to match whatever small thing it was talking to, as well as being able to shapeshift into a human form. That's a very common in dragon lore. Okay, we'll do fire breath, ice breath, lightning breath, all of these things. Ridiculous. I mean, you already know. We love it, man. We love the folklore. We love fiction. We know about slaying dragons and how formidable of an opponents they can be. Fire breath and ice breath, we're aware of, basic dragon abilities. All right. Now the next one is a little bit. I'm saving the next two because they are by far two, even after all of the other abilities that I've discussed, two of the most OP dragon abilities. Okay, now when I say OP, this isn't like the previous overpower we were talking about with the ability to control pressure or the ability to control flow. Both of those make you deity level, but the ability to create and control geo manipulation, the ability to not just cause changes in altitude and in landmass formation, but also the ability to control seismic waves. Okay, like this is another one of those ridiculous abilities. Geo manipulation kind of works into the weather manipulation, and just understand, if you could literally, you could You could take wano and make it an even higher mountain, or you could push it back down into the earth. You have this kind of ability if you are a mythical dragon. Okay, now with that being said, the last one is by far what has been considered in mythology the greatest power of a dragon. And that's probably my own opinion through mythology, because I just a little background on me. How I got started in reading anything was that I love mythology. I actually used to hate to read. Before, in the 3rd or 4th grade, I had a teacher give me a pick of any book, but I had to read one, and I saw mythologies of the world, and it's been rap ever since. I am very well versed in all forms of mythology. Could be better with my Filipino mythology, which I was just reading up a little bit on for this next ability. It is the ability to control stardust manipulation. Now, stardust manipulation is, oh, it is so ridiculous. It is so ridiculous. Let me explain this to you. Stardust manipulation is the ability to manipulate and create new matter, new life, and new forms of energy by using the utilized old burned out remnants of stars that have went supernova, planets that have imploded, sun or moons, and it just literally all different forms of decayed celestial matter. That is what we consider to be stardust. And dragons innately have the ability in many different stories, mythology, anime, games, like the slime we were just talking about. That's one of the main abilities of a dragon, is they one of the dragons controls stardust, and he actually creates their universe. And like that's actually a myth for our world as well. There is a myth that explains a dragon creating our world using stardust. It's very old, but you can find it if you feel like doing the legwork. And with that being said, you can also create metallic and mineral based, like really anything. There's really no word for it. You can make anything your imagination can think of. The greater control over the manipulation of stardust you have, the more intricate and complex and great you can make your creations. So stardust manipulation, that one seems a little bit, I don't know. If Oda gives Momonosuke that ability, like for instance, if Momonosuke has that ability, he pretty much is at God level. God Usopp is no longer a thing because it's actually God Momo, the dude who can actually make a whole new planet if he wanted to. It just would require a large amount of energy, a large knowledge on stardust manipulation, of course. But I mean, dragons don't age. That would be power number 8, 7. I don't know. I didn't keep count. But dragons by nature are immortal, as far as we know. Dragons by nature, even when slayed, are one of those kinds of creatures that, even when slayed, their essence is eternal and therefore will always reconstitute. That's what happens to a deity. If a deity is felled, that deity is not dead. If you're interested in looking up that stuff in mythology, your best bet and the most common one is Cronus in Tartarus. Kronos being the father of the Olympians, swallowing all of his children except Zeus. When felled, cut into tiny little pieces, and thrown into Tartarus, the place that's underneath their underworld. Okay? This OPOG still, at this point in time in Greek myth, is putting himself back together. He was killed by other gods, other deities, and he's putting himself back together so that he may wage one more war against his children. Now, that's insane as it is. We're going to move away from Greek mythology, and we're going to focus a little bit on Filipino mythology. Now, Filipino mythology is very interesting. I didn't get to read as much as I would have liked, but we touch base on Lisuga, the only deity I could come across that is actually referred to as the goddess of the stars. Her own abilities do, therefore, happen to be very similar to that of a dragon, a celestial dragon. But not the kind that are in One Piece. A celestial dragon being one of the dragons native to the cosmos, not any specific individual planet. Those ones are the ones that usually have the ability to manipulate stardust. I don't want to drag this video on any longer, because I just wanted to lay out some of the possibilities for Momo's powers, and kind of just like touch base on like how ridiculous it is that we have a character that's going to develop such radical, ridiculously powerful abilities. And even if he's not Straw Hat Nakama, which I don't personally think he's going to be, I mean, just King, we'll just call him King, not King of Lightning. I think it's I King, or I'm the King. My bad if I messed your name up, brother. I do watch your videos. I like them. He was saying that, like, that he doesn't see it possible for Momonosuke to have the cabin boy role of it. Like, it's not actually possible for the Straw Bats to have a cabin boy. And I would agree, especially if it's not a child. Like, pretty much, like, I'll put it to you, like, in terms like this. Like, the only way the Straw Hats could have a cabin boy is if that cabin boy was Kalawa from Hunter x Hunter. Alright? If that cabin boy was gone from Hunter x Hunter, that would be okay for him to be a cabin boy. If they could somehow paradoxically find Luffy, Ace, or Sabo when they were Momonosuke's age, would definitely be a good candidate for cabin boy. And why do I say this? Now, even with me saying that Momo, at the end of this arc, hopefully will realize these insane abilities that do come with a dragon fruit. Even if he doesn't have all of them, he has some of them. A plethora of them, if you will. Not to mention the combination of devil fruit with Haki. With that being said, Momo doesn't fit the build, because when the main staple is that Shanks and Buggy were around his age and they were on Gold Roger's crew. So the parallel works out nice for all those people who want Momo to be a cabin boy. But what you have to understand is, what has Momo done on the Straw Hat ship thus far? Momo did not do any of the things that Shanks or Buggy did, which D King did definitely point that out, because Buggy and Shanks would fight side by side with every member of their crew and hold their own. Like, you see them in the Odin flashback going toe to toe with Whitebeard pirates. Now, I mean, it was an honorable fight, but a fight is still a fight. So it's not like any punches were pulled. Now, with that being said, that really knocks Momonosuke's ability to be a cabin boy down, even if he does have some of these abilities, because not only is he the ruler of Wano, he also doesn't fit that mold. He hasn't been pushing that narrative. I mean, again, I don't want to be doing the exact thing that I said we were doing at the beginning of the video, where we're the ones that are pushing this negative narrative onto Momo, when realistically that's not what's going on. That's not actually how his character's developing, with him completely just not being like his dad. Like, by the end of this, we'll definitely see that the apple did not fall far from the tree, and that he is his father's son. But I'm gonna wrap this up. So at the end of the day, I definitely think that we're gonna see Momo as a very powerful ally, and Wano being maybe, I would probably say, an allied nation, one of those nations under the Straw Hat flag. And I think that Luffy's territory is going to go a little bit different than the rest of the Yonkos. But when we come out of this arc and Luffy is established as a 5th Yonko, and we absolutely know that this man has the strength to stand and hold his position as a Yonko, because that's really the only thing that's the problem right now, is that Luffy can stand up to most people except another Yonko when it comes to protecting his credibility. And by the end of this arc, that should be changed. Other than that, though, Luffy has the clout, man. Motherfuckers, they don't want smoke with Luffy. Luffy's constantly asking for that smoke. I'm just saying. So, with that being said, I'm going to leave those thoughts to sit on you. I beckon you to do your own research on any of the stuff I was talking about in mythology. Going into Lasuga again, she's just the goddess of the stars. Has very similar abilities to what a dragon would if they could manipulate cosmic energy. To the Filipinos, again, goddess of the stars. This is Prometheus 1-3. You have fantastic nights, everyone. Peace. I should also disclaim, just in case I catch a copyrights infringement, I realize Mac Miller's been playing. It's just because I like Mac Miller. I was listening to the music. I was not intending to add it to the background of the video. I don't know how to edit yet, so that's staying.